Well, so, okay, let me take you back to August, I believe it was 27th, 2017. This is kind of a cool story, precursor to the actual mission of with the babies, but one of my rescue swimmers that I happen to have been stationed in Detroit with, he had been stationed in Corpus Christi at the time of Hurricane Harvey. And this was the second day. So everybody was kind of swarming in from all units, just sending, all hands on deck kind of mission. And my rescue swimmer on this second day of mission happened to be rescue swimmer Troy Ramsdell that I had trained up in Detroit. So it was super cool to be like, we pounded fists real quick and I was like, bro, you're my rescue swimmer. And he's like, you're my flight mechanic. So it was a really cool moment, doing a quick pre-flight on the helicopter and kind of prepping for like, man, shit's about to go down kind of thing. So anyways, we get a call, and I still to this day don't know exactly where the location was, but it was either a children's recovery facility or it was something where there was just a mass amount of children with different, issues that needed to be out. So we fly to this area. So, I mean, and it's just crazy because we're in the smallest helicopter the Coast Guard has. It is a short range recovery MH-65 Dolphin. So like you blow on it and it's like, woo, like it does not handle turbulence and wind well, but the pilots are super amazing at what they do. And they kept a steady course. But so we get this call to go out. We're on this mission. We got the coordinates. They're like, all right, be prepared. A lot of people out there. But backtracking, I did not know this. We did not know this at the time that there was a bunch of children there. They just said, hey, here's the coordinates, roll out. People are in trouble. So we get there and I con the pilots into position, which means that I'm literally at this point hanging out of the helicopter. I'm, keeping the pilots in position. I'm lowering my rescue swimmer down on the hook. And I mean, there's a huge tree behind us. There's power lines in front of us. So my head's on a swivel, constantly keeping the pilots in check and making sure we don't hit anything. And I lower the swimmer down. He's in the water and I see, slowly we're getting people in. We fill the cabin up, we drop them off at the convention center. But the second sortie out, I lower my swimmer down and I notice that he puts a woman into the basket. And I see just bundles of what I thought at the time to be like clothes. And I'm thinking to myself, Troy, bro, like, stop putting this lady's clothes in the basket. Like, we need to save room for humans, man. Like, what are you doing? But as you know, you just trust your team. I'm like, he knows what he's doing down there. I'm just going to trust him. So this is the last hoist. There's a woman in what I think to be 5 bundles of clothing, and I'm hoisting her up. I slide her into the cabin with the basket. I disconnect, lower it down just enough time to get my rescue swimmer before it's like bingo and we got to go. We're out of fuel. So as I finally get him in the cabin, and mind you, there's 5 to 6 other people and their babies already in there. So we're crammed tight. And I have my rescue swimmer and I'm holding on to him and we're heading over to the landing zone. And I happen to look back and she's undoing the mother in the basket is undoing these bundles. And I see these little baby eyes staring up at me. And I'm like, holy crap. And then she undoes the second bundle and there's another baby and then another and another. And soon there's 4 little sets of baby eyes staring up at me. And I'm just like, I get chills thinking about it now because, it's such a profound moment recognizing like what you're doing because you're so numb to it. You're compartmentalizing the mission and the emotional aspect of it. But then in that moment, I'm seeing these 4 little babies looking up at me and I'm like, wow, like we're out here doing the Lord's work, man. Like we're like saving these people from potentially dying. Like it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And it was a moment that I will never forget, looking into those babies' eyes and just remembering like the mission and the danger of what was happening around us.
Yeah. How were you able to hold it together? I just would look away. And not because it's because I don't, hey, no, don't cry. Look away now. I'm not, because I got to stay you got to stay focused and there's time for crying. I always thought there'll be time for crying. There'll be time for high fives down when I'm done. All right. But right now, there are times where you see something like, oh my, that's getting to me. All right, walk away. And some people see that as insensitivity. That was just the way for me to maintain my composure. Is that what you did? Just looked away and found a job to do, found something to do to keep your mind off it, or did you break down?
That's exactly what I did, is I looked away. There was actually, I want to say, a little boy about 7 years old or so, and I gave him my flight mechanic's seat, and he was sitting there by himself, and I'll never forget, his little legs were just trembling because he was so cold. And so I took my attention off the babies and all that was happening, and the feeding tube with the baby in the back, and I got the survival blanket out and I wrapped it on his legs, and I was like, I gave you the best seat in the house. In that moment, it was just like a way for me to like make this little boy's day, because he had just left a horrific situation and now he's flying in a helicopter, and I tried to make light of the situation. And I just couldn't look at those little babies, especially since like we thought one was not alive at first, and that's a whole nother story. But I gave my rescue swimmer that kind of task to handle, and I put my focus on trying to make this little boy's helicopter ride the best ride of his life.
That's
And
so
you-
cool.
you
I was gonna.
joked. That was
What were you saying?
the joking. I tell people this, laughter, movies and the bravado. That's why I do love our movie. They got the jokes that actually happen under duress. All that jackassery, all the comments, all the sayings from bad movies, where there's Team America or Tropic Thunder. Those things happen, and you're like, hey, I got the best seat in the house. Laughter is what gets you through that stressful moments, and that's where a lot of movies that get out there, the bravado's there, but they miss all that funny jackassery that goes on. And you just proved it again. Like, what did you do under all that stress? I made a fucking joke. That's exactly what happened. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, and that's cool. I mean, because you've said this before on the show, and I do think, yeah, it's reflected when we have stories like this. What I was going to say is, you said earlier in the interview, and you say it in the book too. I mean, you don't do it for the accolades or the awards. That's not why you do this. But I have to wonder, what was it like when you got the call? We're going to have you as the guest at the State of the Union address. You're going to be sitting next to the First Lady, Melania Trump. I mean, what was the phone call like? I mean, was it a shock to you? And what was it like, being in, because I've been in the room. I mean, it's like a small room. It's not as big as it looks on TV, and being the center of attention for this like monumental event.
I don't even know where to begin, because it was wild. Like, I still feel like it was a dream. And on the hangar deck, we joke all the time. Like, that's a part of, like you said, is decompression and being able to lighten the mood, because we do some heavy missions and some heavy stuff. But when I got the call, I had my phone on silent, and I was doing heavy maintenance on the aircraft, and I had my phone on silent, but it was on vibrate, and it kept vibrating. So I would look at it and it would be like a blocked call. So I would send it to voicemail and be like, man, who's calling me? They know it's a work day. And then I would put the phone back in my pocket. And then again, they would call, block number. I'm like, psh. So like after the third or fourth time, I don't remember, I finally answered, and I was like, hello? Like, I was so rude, because I thought it was like a telemarketer, and it was like this sweet lady, and she was like, hey, this is so-and-so calling from the White House on behalf of President Trump and the First Lady. And I was like, I instantly looked around the hangar deck. I'm like, who's playing a joke on me in here? Like, that never happens. But like, it was legit, bro. And I was like, cool. So I obviously got the invitation, had no clue, like zero idea, like the extent of what it was. I thought like, oh, cool, I'll sit in the back row, peanut gallery, like maybe I'll get a picture with like a senator or something cool. But like sitting in that front row, that's when I realized, I was like, I looked over to Karen Pence, the vice president, the second lady at the time. And I was like, I'm getting a little nervous. Like, is he going to talk about me in his speech? Like, what do I do? And thank God I asked that question, because she's like, the proper protocol is that you stay seated for the standing ovation. Like, everybody's supposed to stand and clap at you. Like, thank God, because I would have just stood up and been like, oh, like, what do I do? So like, and I didn't realize that I was going to be spoken about, let alone in the first 5 minutes. And on top of that, have 2 standing ovations.
Ashlee was aboard one of the first helicopters on the scene in Houston during the Hurricane Harvey. Through 18 hours of wind and rain, Ashlee braved live power lines and deep water to help save more than 40 lives. Ashlee, we all thank you. Thank you very much.
Like, Like, it's so mind blowing. And the entire time I just kept saying to myself, like, thank you, God, because I knew that I was going to utilize that blessing as a platform to share my story and pique the interest of people so I could talk about my faith and my journey.
Did they take care of you? Did they put you up somewhere nice? If they did, those cheap bastards, let's talk about that. Let's get on them right now. They better put you up at least, not even the Ritz in Pentagon City, guys. That place way overrated. Terrible. Even though you're way too much money. Where'd they put you up at, and did they take care of you? And they fly you first class out there too? Be
No.
honest. Those cheap bastards.
I'm gonna need you to pull some strings and make some phone calls. I need a redo because I don't feel like I got the treatment. I
Neither
deserve.
of us
That's
are
a
politically
bunch of
connected,
bullshit.
especially not with the current administration.
Oh yeah, but I politicians
We have no
hate me. I don't
poll.
regard which side it's on anymore. They both hate me, which is fine. That's how I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that, but yeah, let's call them out.
So wait, where did they have you?
Yeah, it's good.
Honestly, I don't remember. It was I think it was downtown somewhere. Dang, you put me on the spot. I'm gonna have to look it up. It was all a dream to me.
It
was
wasn't.
cool.
Then it wasn't that nice. Then those fucking cheap bastards. Paul,
Yeah.
they got money up there. Why they can at least put you up at the Hilton or something down in downtown DC. That's actually a nice place.